How many of us have horrible systems that really keep us on that treadmill of overwhelm? I'll raise my hand and say, I did. And if I'm not careful, I do. And so I become a stickler at not so much setting goals, but setting systems that don't just help me achieve things, but support my wellness. It's me again. Could it be time to take the break before the break takes you? Yeah, I just said it. I said it, and I'm not doing backsies on it, cousins, because in this episode, we've got to get into it. And I'm live on a wellness walk right now. I have a little coffee.
It's electric.
I have a little mic. If you're new here, this is Percy Ponders, a podcast for sensitive and thoughtful cousins where we figure out life and love together. We've got that out of the way. Now, here's the thing about taking the break before the break takes you. You ever find yourself burning the candle from both ends? Of course. That's kind of most people's default in this culture, which teaches us to source our value from doing the absolute most. You know, this whole term of a Puritan work ethic, right? Attributes all of this virtue, all of these positive traits with people who work hard and do the most. So then, what do many of us overachievers do? And also, what do many folks do just to get by? We do the absolute most. And when you run more sensitive than most, when you have a nervous system that is prone to be even more, sensitive than most, you have to be extra mindful of how you carve out rest and pause and figure out how to work in a way that works for you. Let me tell you the shortest version of this story about learning to work in a way that works for me. So it goes back to my first job out of college. In my first job out of college, I found myself working at this startup. And did I like the job? No. But it was one of those jobs I prayed for. The irony of it all, right? That you end up hating the job you prayed for. Anywho, I'm doing this job, and I know it's deeply misaligned. Not only that, I'm traveling all the time, sleep is dysregulated, eating like trash, just so not my speed. I'm like an orchid. I need very specific conditions to thrive. I'm not like a dandelion. And maybe you are too. You need specific conditions to thrive, more like an orchid than a dandelion. Right amount of light, sleep, food, all that. And I had none of that with this job. Okay? So you get the picture here. Now you add to that I also didn't like the job. And one thing our bodies do, because they're really, really adept at doing whatever is required to keep us safe, is they'll create these things called somatic complaints when we are way off base and way dysregulated and way overstressed and overtaxed for too long. Soma, etymologically, means body. A somatic complaint is basically when your unaddressed feelings, emotions, when your poorly managed stress starts to manifest as physical symptoms, GI issues, okay? Autoimmune disease, skin conditions. A lot of that is linked to a somatic complaint. I did not realize that until this job brought me to a point where I was in the GI doctor's office getting my gut checked because I was stressed, okay? I wasn't stressed. I was stressed. And it was only after that job that I started to become more mindful of becoming the sort of person who takes the break before the break takes me. What does it look like to structure your life so that you're not in chronic overwhelm, in a state of chronic hypervigilance, in a state of nonstop stress? Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, Travis, I don't have the luxury of always taking the break before the break takes me because my life requires a lot of me, whether you're a parent or the bills are due, no matter what, or it feels like there's more month than money, or you work a highly demanding job. I get it. My life is still very demanding, even with a new work setup where I create my own hours. I get it. And to that we say, well, even still, taking the break now before the break takes you is more cost effective, and your future self will thank you. And it's not just as easy as, oh, I'm going to sleep. It could be. Could be as simple as just take a wellness walk. Could be as simple as make more time for the people who nourish you. Make more time to do a thing or two that you enjoy. Guilt-free fun, right? What's helped me the most in creating a life that is not so dysregulating and nonstop stress is considering this point from a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'm saying Atomic Habits by James Clear, like that is a pretty popular book. He talks about how we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. I was like, my guy, that right there is gold. That right there is iconic material. Because if we're being honest, how many of us have horrible systems? Have horrible systems that really keep us on that treadmill of overwhelm? I'll raise my hand and say, I did. And if I'm not careful, I do. And so I become a stickler at not so much setting goals, but setting systems that don't just help me achieve things, but support my wellness, such as a regular daily wellness walk, okay, with my satchel bag and a little coffee, but not too much coffee, because if we do too much coffee, then we get stressed, because that makes our cortisol level goes up, go up, up, and that makes the adrenals do certain things that aren't too great in excess. And then before you know it, our body's creating all this extra inflammation, and then my gut hurts. No thanks. 1 cup a day, more than enough. What can you do to set up your systems for success? Because I talk to a lot of people in my work who feel like, well, I don't have the luxury of taking a break. I get rest, but it doesn't feel restful because I always have tabs open in my head. And that's especially common for neurodivergent people, for people with ADHD, who have this long and history track record with struggling to finish what they start. I get it. I get it. Been there many a time. And that's where systems have come in. That's where systems have come in. For instance, one system that has been an absolute game changer in helping me be less overwhelmed and less chronically stressed and doing the most all the time as a content creator is creating a podcast. Percy Ponder's podcast. I love this space for sensitive and thoughtful e-cousins as we figure out life and love together. Making one longer form piece and then distributing that in smaller chunks across the internet throughout the week versus picking up my phone every day and recording something new. Having to create something new on demand every day for the internet was leading me to a point of burnout. And what people don't discuss about having a content creator career or an internet enabled career, that's what I have. I'm not an influencer. I coach leaders and heart-centered visionaries through big life transitions, resources down the caption. That's my real work outside of the internet. But what people don't realize about content creation as a job, producing media as a job, is that this job will burn you to a crisp with a supersonic quickness if you don't find a way to set up systems that allow you to take breaks and allow you to detach from what you're doing. That's something I've had to consider quite a few times in my work, is how do I get to a point where I'm not on this hamster wheel of go, 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 go all the time, always on, always posting. And creating a bigger piece of pillar content has been such a godsend for me. It's not only allowed me to dive deeper and to learn more and to start understanding neuroscience and somatic healing practices, but it's helped me to be less overwhelmed in my work. I'm curious to hear from you. What could it look like for you to practically start taking the break before the break takes you? Is it setting up better systems that enable your success? What are some of those systems? Is it as simple as saying we will clock out at this time? We are not doing phones after 8 p.m. Could it look like a more firm bedtime? What could that look like for you? Because let me tell you, the better I get at saying this time is a no work time, This time we are unplugging even though there's more to do. I'm so much more replenished when I get back to doing my work than I would have been had I just hustled all the time. And there are so many grifty and crooked gurus out here on the internet who will lead you off a cliff and teach you to live this obsessive, unhealthy, burnt out life. And if you aren't careful, you take advice from those people and it will lead you to bad and hellish places. Let's be honest. You don't want that. I'd love to hear your experience with this down in the comments. Where are you in this route to taking the break? Where are you en route to creating a life where you don't need to be in a constant state of overwhelm and overwork and stress? Where are you in this journey? And could it be possible that this video is the invitation that you've needed to give yourself to pause, to pause, to human a little bit more? You're a human being, not a human doing. I know it sounds cliche, but certain cliches are cliche for a reason, because they need to be said more. You can like and subscribe to this down below to help this resource reach more people. And if you're a heart-centered visionary in a season of grief, growth, reinvention, in your work or personal life, resources down below. Peace.